Hello, I've been having a surprising amount of fun with the Armored Royale mode, and it's all about shredding the enemy team's trucks. So just for my own sake, I wanted to test a bunch of anti-vehicle weapons to see what would be the best stuff to put on a loadout. And since the mode has stuck around for now, I may as well share the findings. Nothing super surprising, but it was fun to compare everything and arrive at the perfect class. If you just feel like pulling up all the raw testing I did, I'll link that below. Now, it was pretty much impossible to test damage on actual enemy trucks in this mode with the auto squad fill and everything, so to compare weapon damage, I just had to assume they behave the same as regular trucks, but with more health. So I went around in Plunder testing out damage on full HP trucks. I always got in them first to make sure, and then you know how it's done, measuring the HP bar. There were 120 pixels in the bar, so I arbitrarily decided that these trucks have 1200 HP. Needed to explain that because that's what the numbers I'll be using mean. Just so you know, they mean basically nothing, because 1200 HP is made up. The only point is comparing them to each other. Okay, first off, if for any reason you were doubting if FMJ helps or not on Warzone vehicles, it does. I used the PKM with and without FMJ and measured a 53% damage increase with FMJ. Just call it 50% more damage to Warzone vehicles. It's possible it works differently for different guns, but alright, you totally want FMJ for this game mode. And if you're worried there's some chance these armored trucks were maybe balanced differently to ignore FMJ, while I was making this, they released a guide article for the mode, which, as expected, was all really basic info, but they do mention FMJ is a thing you should run, so I'll call that pretty confirmed. The next question was, what primary weapon should I run? So I tested all the LMGs just for fun, as well as 2 ARs in the mix to see how they stack up. For a couple different calibers, I used the Kilo and the AK, since they both have those drum mags. And I know the Kilo is already very popular right now. I hate the feel of it personally. I know it's low recoil, but the visual recoil feels like it goes down in a weird way. Oh well. Here's a chart of primary weapon anti-truck DPS. Remember, the actual numbers are not important. They're just for comparing to each other. Also, everything did have FMJ, except that one PKM at the bottom. Unsurprisingly, the MG34 is going to win the DPS battle, but I'd say it loses the war. This DPS does not include any reloading or mag size. This is just sustained firing, and the MG34's biggest mag is 100 rounds. You're going to burn through that and be stuck with an awful reload. So I'd say pretty clearly the PKM and the Bruin are winning the war here. Both with the same respectable DPS, not far behind number 1, and they both have those 200 round attachments, which are generally not super practical, but are very fun to run in this mode, where you just want to lay into a truck with your team and reload later when you're out of the fight. You also get to hold more ammo in general, because your reserves will always be 210 no matter what gun you have. It's nice to have 200 more on top, because you do burn through ammo in this mode way more than normal. Here's the total damage output of one full mag of each weapon, assuming you're using the biggest mag attachment possible. You can see how much more damage you can get with those two 200 round belt boys before needing a reload. Plus, they're second highest for DPS. Big fan of those things. So not much reason to run any of the other stuff, except you do see the Kilo there looking pretty good for an accurate AR. Turns out running an LMG is not that important. An FMJ AR will do you just fine. So if you're already a big Kilo fan, if you just change your Warzone class a bit to go with the bigger mag and FMJ, you've got yourself an excellent weapon for this mode. Versus the PKM or Bruin, you sacrifice carrying 100 extra rounds for a much better reload and maybe a weapon you prefer. And it is important that you're comfortable with the gun for shooting at players, after all, because even though you can respawn while your truck is still up, and it's usually only a 10 to 15 second wait, taking people out is still super valuable. You should prioritize that, because you need to stop them from doing too much damage to you. And if you can wipe most of a team, then their truck is defenseless for a while, because it's not like they respawn with their loadout plunder style. They're going to have to get back to their bodies to really fight you off. So that is important too. You need to like the gun on top of this truck DPS stuff. I'm plenty comfortable with the PKM though, so those are my top 3 recommendations for fun Armored Royale primaries. Now, how about a secondary weapon? We got some fun options to try out. First, the obvious choice being a launcher. The Pila, Strela, and RPG all did the same damage to a Warzone truck, while the Joker just straight up nuked it from full. I guess I should have expected that, but I didn't, because the Joker was never very strong against tanks or other streaks, even though the Javelin obviously should be. So that's pretty powerful. I'm going to assume that it did exactly 100% of the truck's health, but who knows if it maybe did more. Even with that conservative assumption though, the Joker does come out on top for DPS. This is including all of the launcher reload times, as well as the Joker lock-on time, because it is mandatory. That's right, even including the lock-on time, the Joker is still out DPSing everything, because it reloads pretty darn fast. The reload and lock-on is faster than a Strela or Pila reload. Like the Pila there is not including its lock-on time, because it can be free-fired, and it's still losing badly. All these numbers are assuming you're running amped, because it's already a great perk for the swap time, and if you have a launcher, I think you should have amped. So if it's a launcher you want, I think it should be the Joker. Even if you're up close and hit every RPG, it still loses in DPS. Pretty crazy. I know it's hard to lock on with a Joker when you are that close, but at that point you should really just go back to your FMJ primary for about the same DPS as a Pila. Locking onto faraway trucks is very fun, and the Joker rocket coming from above means it can often get around tons of trees and junk, and then knock the gunner or the people riding in the back instead of hitting the side, which is huge. The biggest weakness of launchers, though, is that everyone should be buying the trophy upgrade for their truck. That's going to block 3 rockets and can be quickly refilled on top of the regular trophies you can find. So this is really most effective if everyone on your team is dumping out Joker rockets. Then you can eat through the trophy and do some huge damage. But then you run out of rockets pretty fast, so maybe it might be better for the team ammo economy if 1 or 2 people had something else, and they could give their extra rockets to a launcher user. Like what you can do is take a teammate's launcher, refill on an ammo box to get the 6 rockets, then give the launcher back so you can give them the ammo later. Let's explore some other unique options then. First, I had to look at the fun Rytek ammo, because that bypasses trophies, which is cool, but I was a bit underwhelmed. Both ammo types performed the exact same. I also tested it with and without FMJ, because I was curious if it would just apply a flat vehicle buff, or if the ammo type actually mattered. Yeah, it turns out FMJ did nothing for the special Rytek ammo types, so no need to use it here. I also tried an FMJ Rytek with the normal 50 BMG, and that damage was so awful I didn't even put it on here. But with the explosive or thermite rounds, whichever you prefer, it does have some respectable DPS, but that's only within firing those 5 rounds, which takes about 1.5 seconds to fire, and then you're stuck with a not so great reload. Meanwhile, a Joker, which doesn't require overkill, is basically matching that DPS, including the reload, and has more potential to kill the people in the back. So there's maybe a bit of an advantage to having a different ammo type, but I'd say not worth it. Just join in your team in dumping out Joker rockets to make sure the trophy gets used up. I did also try the Crossbow, same story here, except way worse, and that number assumes you're using sleight of hand. Quite awful. Finally, I gave the FMJ Origin 12 a try. It was actually some great DPS, and you can almost keep it that high with the 25 round mag. It reloads really fast too, but think about the practical utility. If you've wiped a team and are able to stand next to a stationary truck to lay into it with an Origin, you could really be using your primary to kill it. It sounds like you've already won that fight. Unless the team leaves their truck unguarded and you manage to sneak around and do some big damage. Yeah, I don't know about that. So if you want an Origin anyway, you could consider it, but it's not really helping you win truck battles. So didn't really find any diamonds in the rough there. Final gun I tested was the mounted truck machine gun. Thought it was important to know, cause it feels good, it sounds good, but what if it's actually not even better than an FMJ LMG? Nah, turns out it is better. It is worth having someone on that gun. It came out to be a good amount higher than any full auto primary, as it should be. Then, assuming you have the cooldown upgrade on your truck, which you should have all those unlocked pretty quickly, you can also dump out a good total damage before it has to cool down. And then you don't even need to reload it. You could just hop off, switch seats into the truck maybe, reposition, and then get back on. Finally, I did test a few of the equipments that seemed the most viable. The Thermite wasn't as effective as I was hoping. It's really the C4 that gets the massive anti-vehicle damage. And I think it's the exact same with the proxy mines. I couldn't test those, but I think they do the same vehicle damage, where they completely obliterate any vehicle from full, except the truck, which they can bring very low. But I think even after the throw nerfs, the C4 is a bit easier to land on a truck than to get it to run over a proxy mine. And you'll get a very big chunk of damage for that. Thermite can throw very quickly and far, though, so it's an okay choice, up to you. Throwing knives and melee did no damage at all, in case you were wondering. Alright, finally time to put together the class I'll be using after learning all that. I'm not a Kilo fan, and the Bruin got that recoil nerf, so I'll be using the PKM. I know the Bruin 60 round mag got the bigger recoil nerf, so it isn't terrible, but I like the PKM. I always get questions about the Iron Sight whenever I use this thing in Spec Ops guides. It is the standard issue blueprint from the Shock and Awe mission challenge that came at launch. It just involves calling in some kill streaks. This is the only PKM I ever remember using, so I actually never knew how much more blocked the normal PKM sights were. Because of that, I don't feel like I need a scope. Gonna go with that big mag and FMJ to start off. The longest barrel for the range and recoil control, tac laser to try to rescue the aim down sight time a little, and then the last will be a suppressor. Monolithic or tactical is fine, because it's such a staple to be off the radar, or the unique snatch grip that the PKM has, because that thing's pretty good. Being on the radar might be less important when you're going around in loud trucks all the time, but I'm not always going to be in the truck, and personally, I don't want to be on the radar since I could be firing this thing for long periods of time. I don't want to be a solid red dot on the minimap just asking to get shot in the back. I think not being on the map is too much of an advantage to give up. Moving on, it's going to be the Joker as a secondary, no surprise there. Very fun to unload rockets at a team at faraway trucks where the PKM will be a bit less effective. If I ever find an MGL though, like the chopper event seems pretty common in this mode, of course I'll take that instead, because it's fun. I don't have a damage number for it, but it feels very good, and it's amazing at completely popping a trophy and then decimating anyone riding in the back. But of course you can't always find one of those. I wouldn't bother running anything else for truck damage, but obviously if you want some other secondary like a normal sniper or SMG for killing players, like the new marksman for as long as that's OP, that's obviously still a good option. Looking at perks, it's gotta be EOD. Lots of people will be running launchers and various explosives for the trucks. I don't want any other blue perk more than that. The red perk is interesting. Ghost is such a staple, but you could argue this is such a loud, hectic mode where you're driving around firing like crazy. Maybe you don't need any stealth. Still though, looking at the other options, do you want restock stuns or stims? Maybe. Nothing amazing here, and since trucks have that radar upgrade, everyone's gonna have UAV all the time on their truck, so it is still really valuable to be off that truck radar, to be able to get some sort of jump on people. You're not always gonna be riding around in your truck, after all. It makes sense to not be in the back during a truck fight. Just have your driver and gunner in there, and have the other two people kind of branch out and find better cover. Also, if your truck blows up and you're trying to sneak away to maybe buy a truck redeploy marker, good luck without Ghost. You can easily be hunted down by any trucks in the area. So Ghost is still great. However, we do actually have one person on the team always running Hardline, because there are so many things to buy in this mode, like all 4 truck upgrades, refilling the truck trophy system, repairing the truck on the go, buying munitions boxes off the truck since you can burn through a lot of ammo, buying streaks, which are often great tools to take on trucks as well, especially if a team has parked somewhere open. Calling a cluster on that, that's gonna hurt. One person running Hardline can make all of that 25% cheaper, and that is pretty valuable. So we dump all our money on that one Hardline person to buy all the things for the team. It is very good to have money left over in the late game for spamming truck repairs. The Hardline player is also usually the main driver of the truck, because then not having Ghost doesn't matter at all, and they can keep on top of the repairs. If you have a team, that can be a fun strat. Finally, it's going to be amped for the third, of course. Fast equipment, swapping, launcher, love it. And the equipment is going to be a stun and C4. I'm not that attached to the stun. That can be anything, smoke, stim, whatever, but the heartbeat ain't that great when you have a truck radar. And I really like having something throwable over the stim, because it can help quickly pop 2 trophy charges before maybe C4ing a truck at close range. The C4 could also switch for Thermite, but it's just so much more damage when you land a C4 versus a Thermite. I think it's worth it to do some serious damage when a truck is in range versus maybe landing a Thermite throw at longer range, only to do a couple seconds worth of LMG DPS. You may as well have not bothered throwing it at all. You could have just kept shooting. That is my class. Your preferences may vary. I didn't expect to like this game mode as much as I did. Totally, by far, the best limited time mode we've seen. Mini Royale was alright, but not very innovative. Usually I just try one round of whatever limited mode there is. It's some boring slight twist that might just add RNG, like jug suits or different redeploying. Doesn't really make the game any better, but this was pretty damn creative. They clearly put some effort into it with the repair stations, the truck upgrades, you get to see those get welded on. It's fun. It is quads, so it's obviously going to be way more fun with friends than just trying to make ends meet with random fills. But there's actually a good amount of strategy and balance with the trucks being so repairable. It's not a bad idea to take some fights. It's a fun mix of your life not being too important, because you'll come back, but protecting the truck is very important. You can easily be knocked out of the game if you're not smart with where you're parking your truck. Big fan. Don't know how long it'll stick around, maybe it'll be gone the second I post this video, but in that case, I think it'll come back around at some point. They put a bit too much into it for it to be 1 week only, and this was fun to look into either way. Hope you learned something about the mode, or I've inspired you to get your team to give it a try. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.
I got a I disabled the vehicle! I got it! Fuck yes! Yes! Got that was it! Yes! Oh my god, dude. Dude, you guys should have fucking seen me! I was like fucking sliding from rock to fence, getting closer and fucking closer, dodging bullets until the truck got super close to me, and then dumped all rockets into it, dude. Oh my god! My dick is hard. That was dope as fuck.